I am in my last year of high school. Now, most of my friends and classmates have already gotten some kind of job, whether that's working at a fast food place or even helping their own parents out with a little business they set up for themselves. I was one of those few who just couldn't manage to get a job. Every application I sent out was merely received with the usual copy and paste reply that amounted to, "You weren't chosen." But I had to get money somehow. That's what led me to start making and putting up flyers for a sort of house-sitting service. As old school as it seemed, a lot of my neighbors were usually going away on various trips, and very few of them would leave their houses alone, so they'd usually call up a friend or someone they knew to look after things. To be honest, I wasn't expecting to really get any offers for that reason. That was until I got a call from a friend of mine. To keep it brief, they called because he and his parents were going out of town for the Easter weekend and their usual house sitter had recently tested positive. They almost canceled the trip until they saw my flyer. I accepted the offer and was told to get to his house early in the morning on Friday to give me the basic rundown on what to do and how to take care of things. Thankfully, they were bringing their dog with them on the trip, so I wouldn't need to worry about that. I got to the house at around 6:30 in the morning on Friday. My friend was already waiting for me at the front door to give me the standard tour. To provide a little detail, the house itself was a standard one-story suburban home. From the front door, there was the living room, which had a reclining, sand-colored couch facing a large flat-screen TV. From the living room, straight ahead from the front door, led into the kitchen to the immediate right, and a large dining room ahead. The kitchen had a door that led into a laundry room, and the dining room led to 3 other areas. Midway through the dining room, there was an alcove that had 3 doors, or 4 if you counted the towel closet beside the door straight ahead from the alcove entrance. That door led to the guest bedroom, and to the left was a room filled with various creative supplies and materials. To the right was the den, which had a second TV and a computer within. At the end of the dining room were a set of glass doors leading to the back porch. The blinds were half closed, so I was able to see a little bit of the backyard as well. To the left of that was my friend's room, and to the right was his parents' room, or the master bedroom, as some would call it. After the tour and a basic rundown on what needed to be done, my friend waved me goodbye before heading off with his parents. I decided to check over each room before heading away myself. They had told me to come by each morning and each evening to check over the house and tidy things up if needed. They left me their phone number in case anything went wrong, although I wasn't expecting anything to really happen. As I was checking the kitchen, my eyes caught a glimpse of what seemed like an envelope of some kind, resting in the middle of the granite-countered island at the center of the kitchen. I picked it up, assuming it was just some mail from their other family members, until I saw what was written on the front. In black pen ink it read, "Additional house rules." I thought to myself that there might be some other things that they may be used to with their usual house sitter that they want me to do as well. I opened up the envelope and unfolded the paper inside. I was not expecting what I was about to read. On top of the paper, it read as follows. Additional house rules. Rule 1. Arrive and enter the house at the exact same time each morning and evening. No exceptions. Rule 2. Make sure any and all doors of any kind are closed. If you find a door opened and you don't remember opening it, close it and avoid entering that room for at least 5 minutes. Rule 3. If anyone calls the house phone past 7 p.m., do not answer it, even if it's our number. Rule 4. Keep the alcove light and the master bedroom lights on while you are inside the house. Other lights are optional. However, if any lights you turned on happen to turn off for any reason, go to the alcove or master bedroom until that light turns on again. Rule 5. During your evening check, do not leave the house at any time between 7 and 7:30. Past those times, you may leave at any time. Rule 6. Close the blinds to the backyard before doing anything else during the evening. Do not look out into the backyard for any reason. These rules read to me more like some kind of safety manual than anyone's standard rule set. I honestly thought it was some kind of joke that my friend wanted to play on me before he had left. Regardless, I kept the list and headed out for the day. I arrived at around 6:45 that night for the evening check. I entered the house and began looking around for anything out of place, as instructed. The house was brightly lit, as I had just turned every light on so I could see. All the doors were closed, so I had to open them to check inside. It wasn't until I reached my friend's room when I started noticing anything unusual. Unlike all the others, the door to his room was cracked open. As I approached the room, I began to hear what sounded like something scratching at the door. And before I got within arm's reach of it, the light in that room flickered very slightly before abruptly shutting off. I began to back away from the door just as it began to slowly creak open. I backed into the door leading into the master bedroom and quickly bolted in, closing the door behind me. The creaking of the door to my friend's room stopped, and for a good 10 seconds, it was dead silent. The only sound was that of my own breathing. Then, I began to hear slow-moving footsteps coming from the room. They slowly approached the door to the master bedroom, which I was right behind. I looked under the door in hopes I could see who or what it was, but there was nothing. I saw a shadow stretching slightly into the room from under the door as if something was there, yet my eyes saw absolutely nothing. I then began to hear the scratching I heard earlier now coming from behind the door. I had no idea what to do. What could I even do? Whatever it was, I couldn't even see it. Eventually, after about 5 long minutes, the scratching abruptly stopped. The shadow under the door was gone. I hesitated before cracking the door open to peek outside the room. My friend's room was lit up again, and the door was wide open. I checked the door I was cowered behind, and there was no evidence that anything had ever been there, let alone had been scratching at the door. I checked the time on my phone. It read 7:05 p.m. I stepped out into the dining room and noticed that the blinds to the backyard weren't closed. I went over to close them, but not before catching a glimpse of the outside. Out on the backyard was a tall, animalistic, shadowed figure. Its appearance almost resembled that of an 8-foot deer standing on its back legs. It turned its gaze toward mine. On what I assume was its face were 3 bright purple eyes staring right at me. I took no time in closing the blinds the moment it looked at me, hoping I would be safe from whatever it was that was out there. My phone read 7:17 p.m. when I heard the home phone ring. I was about to go over and answer it, but I remembered one of the additional rules. That being, if anyone calls the house past 7 p.m., do not answer it, even if it is our number. At this point, I was willing to follow these rules to the letter. I had already had way too many close calls due to me nearly not following these strange guidelines, so I let the phone ring on a few more times before it went straight to voicemail and let out a sigh of relief. My phone read 7:31 p.m. I decided to start heading home. I was shaken by what I had seen, as I had no clue if it was all some kind of nightmare. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was real. I hardly got any sleep that night, and by morning I was running late for the morning check. I drove down to the house and went up to the door. I was about to unlock it before I began to hear scratching from behind the door. I rose up, not moving. I remembered the first rule. Arrive and enter at the same time each morning and evening. I decided to back away to my car. I wasn't sure what was behind the door, but I didn't want to find out. I got into my car and began to pull away. Just before I started driving away from the entrance, I saw those 3 purple eyes from the window of the house, gazing at me just as I drove off. That evening, I arrived at 6:45 to the site of my friend's car in the driveway. Confused, I got out and walked up to the front door and rang the doorbell. After a minute, my friend answered the door and greeted me with his usual smile. "You guys are back early," I said, confused. "Ah, right," my friend answered. "Our family couldn't make it to my grandparents' Easter dinner, so we had to head home early." I nodded as he handed me the money I was promised. He wished me a good night and was about to close the door when I remembered the note. "By the way," I began to ask, "what was that note about? What's up with your house?" He looked at me, confused for a second, before he got a look of realization in his eyes. He chuckled to himself before he answered, "I didn't really expect you to take that little joke seriously." "What do you mean?" I replied. "I just left that there to mess with you, man," he laughed. "None of that is anything you need to worry about."